Hello folks, White Guy here again. Welcome to my home on this very beautiful spring afternoon. The name of this video is called The White Guy Exposes the Salvation Lie About Fear and Trembling. Haven't you heard that one before? That one put out you? You better work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. What if there was this raging forest fire? I'm going to explain it this way. What if there was this raging forest fire that was coming up behind you real fast, okay? And a deep canyon was ahead that was missing a bridge. How would you save yourself? Furthermore, what if your friend that was in the car with you told you that the only way to be saved was to proceed ahead, okay? Over the ravine, but with fear and trembling. As if fear and trembling would somehow manifest itself into a bridge. This, I know it sounds idiotic, but bear with me, because who in the hell that I no longer believe in does that make sense to? I'm going to prove that that passage is idiotic is what I just said. Okay? When referencing the temporal, we are most certainly encouraged to save ourselves in a temporal sense by believing and changing our mind, which means repenting, okay? About what? About things that can harm us. All right? So if a flood or a fire has temporarily destroyed a bridge, then believing that the bridge is gone, that's where believing comes in, and repenting, changing your mind about going over that area where the bridge once was, it would probably save you from harm. You think? As I portrayed in my missing bridge scenario, believing and repenting is most certainly pragmatic, and it's true. But not in the way and how the perverted Latin rendering of Philippians 2:12 claims, as in, quote, to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, close quote. There's more to that quote than that, and I'll explain in a moment. All I can say about that is what a load of Latin-based crap that's telling us to do the exact opposite of what the passage originally was intended to mean, which is proven in the very next verse. Remember, I just quoted you Philippians 2:12. I'm talking about the very next verse of Philippians 2:13. It proves that that's bogus. But be patient. I'll get to it when I quote those verses from the Koine Greek rendering. Anyway, Philippians 2:12, for check it out for yourself, and you'll discover that I didn't include the entire passage. Okay, when I did my quote, remember? Because most people ignore the context of what Paul was saying, but they usually only zoom in on those 9 little words of work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Now let's read that same passage from Jonathan Mitchell's Amplified Greek New Testament. Quote, consequently, my loved ones, according as at all time you folks submissively listened, paid attention, and humbly obeyed. Remember that word obeyed. Okay, not as only in my presence, but further, much now more in my absence, in company with fear and trembling. Remember those words too. Be habitually working with the deliverance. Be constantly producing on the level and sphere of the wholeness and well-being, which are the outcome of the rescue and salvation of or pertaining to yourself. And here's the big comma. Now, here's verse 13. And it puts it totally in perspective and the right context. Quote, for you see, God is the one habitually being inwardly active, working and affecting results within you folks, both the willing and the situation to be continuously affecting the actions and inward work above the think. Isn't that an interesting way of putting it? Above the think that pleases. In other words, how you think towards God. That pleases for the sake of His good pleasure. Okay, close quote. Christians believe what? Why? By the way, that's the title of my new book, my 4th book. Okay? Christians have been taught to fear God, and they use this Philippians 2:12 passage as one of the many to prove it. And secondly, that they're trying to claim that we're personally the ones responsible for our own eternal salvation, even though the word eternal can't be found anywhere within the passage. Do you see what happened? Not only is the context usually ignored, but it's assumed that salvation is referring to an eternal one, rather than contextually being saved from whatever temporal circumstance that causes a person to fear and tremble. Hope you're catching this. Furthermore, When read from the Greek rendering, it's more than clear that the context and circumstance is referring to being obedient. Be obedient while in the company with fear and trembling. In the company, get it? Fear and trembling is not a necessity, as a perverted Latin-based rendering implies. Notice how it's worded in the Greek. It's not telling us to be fearful or to tremble, nor to basically to work out anything, much less an eternal salvation, that's for sure. Okay? So, also the context of the passage proves that salvation is all about the temporal, because it mentions the wholeness, and has nothing to do with eternity, unless you want to believe that we're going to spend an eternity with fear and trembling. You know, we already, in closing this video, we already know that God is eternal, but this passage is encouraging us by making it clear that it is God who is at work in us, both to will and to behave according to His good purposes. So yes, temporal salvation, while in the company of fear and trembling, is attainable if we're obedient. We're obedient to the Spirit of God, obviously. Simply, that is all this passage is telling us. So there's no need for fear and trembling every time you seek some type of salvation. Okay? Instead, this passage should encourage us to rest and have a confidence in God and experience peace. Why? For it is God who works in you both to will and to act according to His good purposes. If you've appreciated this video, would you consider giving me one of these? Also, scroll down to the Show Me More section. You'll see 7 links there. One is to my website, thatwhyguy.com, and there's 2. One is to, if you want to support this channel in Patreon and possibly buy the Why Guy a cup of coffee, that would be wonderful. I'd appreciate that. That takes care of 3 of them. What are the other 4? Oh yeah, 3 links to Amazon, each of them soon to turn into 4 links when I finish my 4th book. Anyway, 3 of those links are to Amazon books for my 3 books that I've published. And what is the last one? Oh yeah, the last link is to my overall channel, okay? The Why Guy channel. So anyhow, in case you want to investigate some of the other videos, there's hundreds of them out there. I've thoroughly been enjoying myself over these years. I definitely don't claim to know it all. On the contrary, frankly. So, and I am teachable, and I encourage any of your comments, as long as they're polite. If you want to correct me, just be polite about it. I don't mind being corrected. I really don't. But you got to prove it. And I might challenge you. That doesn't mean I'm trying to tick you off, okay? No. But anyhow, I do thank you. Oh, look me up on Facebook under a group called The Why Guy Group. And as I do in a lot of my videos, did you remember to give me one of these on this video? One more reminder. Thank you for viewing.